everyone. Welcome to the show called Behind the Success. Today we'll be talking to Leticia about her experience being in India and her experience being content creator. While decoding her mind and the values which actually has been helping her to reach heights. And if I talk about statistics, statistics says that she grew with 26k followers on TikTok, 20k on Instagram, and 3.7k subscribers on YouTube just during the lockdown. The pandemic last year and this year so far. So this has been massive numbers if I see from a content creator perspective. And I'm sure in today's conversation we'll have a lot to understand the mindset and what keeps her on track when it comes to the consistency, which a lot of content creators usually talk about. So welcome Leticia for the show to the show, and I'm really looking forward for an amazing conversation today.
Thank you for the invitation. I'm really happy to be here. It's a big honor, and I hope we have a great talk today.
Thank you. Before we start, since I know that you've been in India back in 2013, and since then you have been traveling, or I would say you had your one foot in India and one foot in Brazil. I would like to know more about the first time you came to India. Uh, how was the experience before coming to India? What was the understanding about the country? What were the emotions you were having when you were flying for the first time?
Okay. I went to India for the first time through an ISAC internship. There are several people that I know who had been a part of this organization called ISAC. For those who don't know it, it's the largest youth-run organization. And the purpose of ISAC is to create better leaders for tomorrow. And they do this through either experiences of work inside the organization itself or leadership experiences by taking different internship opportunities abroad. There are two types of internships that ISAC usually does. One of them is to do short-term internships like in volunteering work, in volunteering organizations, NGOs across the world. And the second part is it's a program called Global Talent, which is for people to do paid internships in their area of expertise in any different country. So I graduated in fashion design, and India had a lot of opportunities for fashion designers because India is one of the leaders in textile and garment production worldwide, and India makes a lot of clothes for brands throughout the world. So the first time that I heard about ISAC, I will be very honest, and I think I don't mind sharing this part of my experience because I think this is what drove such a huge change inside of me and that, led towards the development of whatever I do today. Before going to India, I had a huge prejudice against India because everything people used to tell me was very negative. People used to say, oh, there's only poverty, there's too many poor people, the country is very dirty, people litter all around, it's not safe for women. And this was a huge topic in that time because I decided to have an experience abroad in the end of 2012. And in that time is whenever the Nirbhaya case happened in Delhi, and there was a huge thing worldwide that really tarnished the name of the country as being extremely unsafe for women. And in that time, I had never, ever really studied about, Indian culture. I had never listened to Indian songs or watched Indian films. I really didn't know much apart from the negative stereotypes that were all over the place. So I didn't want to go to India at all. I was scared. And there were members of ISAC from Jaipur that used to keep sending me the internship opportunities in the city. And, they used to say, oh, there's a lot of opportunities for fashion designers or, in the fashion industry in Jaipur, you should come here. And I wouldn't even reply because, I really thought that this is not the best fit for me. And then after a few months that I was applying for Isaac internships, I started changing my mind, and I started realizing that, there are several people abroad that they also have a bad image about Brazil. People think that Brazil is only about drugs, about drug trafficking and violence and whatever it is, and it's not true. Or, I mean, there's so much more to the country besides this. So I thought India is actually a huge growing economy. So maybe I should actually give it a try and go there and see from my own eyes what is real and what is not real, instead of what I just hear from the media, right? So that's when I started changing my perspective, that you should actually go to the country and have the experience for yourself rather than believing everything that you see, in the media, because the media has its own reasons for portraying such countries in the way it does. So I just decided to take a leap of faith and go, and that's how I ended up in Jaipur in July of 2013.
Okay. While listening to you, I was also actually reflecting of my travel experiences, and I realized that there's one thing which is common, that we both have been to at least one country more than a couple of times. So, for example, for our listeners and viewers, I've been to Russia 3 times, and I always had a different kind of thrill or different kind of emotions while flying to the country or while coming back. So, I would like to know that, since every visit you made to India, was there something different, or was there a different set of emotion inside you?
Definitely. I think on my flight to India, before India was actually in Italy, I got an internship in Italy as well. So I flew first from Brazil to Italy. I spent 6 weeks in Italy. And then from Italy, I went directly to India. And whenever I was on the plane, I thought a lot about how every second that passed, I was going farther from home than I had ever been. India was my first time in Asia, and it was the farthest country from Brazil that I had ever been to in that time. And that thought was occurring to me all the time. And it was like, oh my God, I am going so far from home. Like each second it's farther from home. And I remember when I was in the plane, boarding to India, and I saw a lot of Indian people. It was like the most that I had seen Indian people in my life. And everybody looked so different from me. And I was like, wow, I am really going to a place that is very different from my culture. So whenever I landed in Jaipur for the first time, it was wow, those first days and the first feeling that you get in India is something that I don't think anyone ever forgets, because you land and you get out of the airport, and I was like, wow, I am really here, like everybody in the street is Indian and everything is so different. And then I remember there was this Isaac member who went to pick me up at the airport. He was Abhimanyu. And he went to pick me up, and he put my luggage in his car. And in the beginning, it was also a strange thing for him, because I don't look like the average Brazilian, right? I am half Japanese. So I was looking for the Indian guy that was supposed to pick me up. And he was like, who is the Brazilian girl that I'm supposed to pick up? Like, it's not this girl that I am seeing, right? So it was funny for both of us. And he picked me up, and on the way, I got the first feel of Indian traffic. And I remember that he was driving on the road, and like how people they just start crossing in front of the cars at all times. And some cars, they drive on the wrong side of the way, and sometimes there's a cow in the middle of the street. And the first time that this happens, you're like, oh my God, like the car is gonna crash, I am gonna die, something is gonna happen. And I remember that he was driving on the road, and there was a guy, like he was literally in the middle of the road, and he was waving like this, like, no, like I am here. Somehow he got stuck in the middle of the road, and he just couldn't cross. And this image of him doing this, like, be careful, I am here, I will never forget. And I just remember seeing all of this and thinking like, oh my God, like, where am I? What is this place? And then I went to the supermarket and I couldn't recognize anything there. Like all of the food, everything that was there had a different name. And I didn't even know what to buy. So I bought a packet of Maggie and I went back to the house where I was staying and I cooked the Maggie and it was so spicy for me. And I couldn't even eat half of the packet. And I was like, oh my God, the traffic is too much. And it was really hot because it was before the monsoon season started. So I was like, the heat is too much, the traffic is too much, the spiciness of the food is too much. I don't think I am gonna be able to stay here for 8 months. Oh my God, what am I gonna do? So the first feelings that you get in India, they're always like a huge mix of feelings, all at once, and it's super intense. It's too intense for your palate, for your ears, for everything is like a lot. So the first days, they're definitely very challenging and there's a lot to absorb in the beginning.
Interesting. Also, since I know that you have been learning Hindi as a language, and then I mean learning cooking Indian cuisines and all of that, I would like to know that, do you feel that there are certain changes which has come permanently to your personality by being part of a different culture?
My personality changed a lot. Like sometimes I don't recognize now the person that I was before going. And this is one of the most beautiful things that I think about India, that it's a country that it changes you a lot. I mean, it doesn't matter whether you want to change, it's just going to happen. And I think you need to be very open and very embracing of this change, because what happens is that before going, I was a normal Brazilian mid-20s girl. I had graduated from college. I had done my master's. I had a job. I was living in the biggest city of the country, which is São Paulo. So I felt very free, very independent. I felt like I could just wear anything, do whatever I wanted. I used to go to parties on Saturdays and come back very late. And I was a very carefree person. I didn't put many thoughts about other people's needs. Let's say I didn't used to think so much about inequality or other aspects of the world. And I used to consider myself like a pretty open-minded person. But what happened was that whenever I arrived in India and everything was too much, it's not an easy change, or it's not easy to handle all of this that happens inside you. And what happened was that I found out that I had several prejudices that I didn't really think that were there inside of me. And I found out that the world was so much broader than I imagined, and that certain problems were so much more complex than I envisioned. Because whenever you live in a country which is, let's say, Western, and I would just generalize Western because many people don't even consider Brazil to be Western, but Brazilians do, so it's okay. And what happens is that you have this certain notion about countries like India. And it's kind of ironic to say this because Brazil does have certain inequality. I mean, it's not as strong as in India, but it does. And a lot of people from like US or Europe or even Brazil, they like to think that they know the solutions to these countries, right? Like, oh, but the problem of India is the caste system, because it's because of the caste system that there is so much inequality or discrimination, or oh, Indian people should do this, people in Africa should do that. And people already have these preconceived notions of what are the solutions to different countries. And that is a complete lie, right? Whenever you actually go to that country and you realize you don't understand anything about that culture, and the solutions that you thought that you had for those people, they don't want those solutions. It doesn't work for them. And you really need to undress yourself from all of those notions, and you need to actually be open to understand that culture, to understand like, okay, but what is the real problem that India faces, and is there actually anything that I can do about it? Because eventually you figure out that it's so much bigger than you, it's so much bigger than your white savior complex, that, oh, I would just go there, I know I will fix everything, and those people need me because they cannot fix anything by themselves. And it's a huge thing that I think that everyone who comes from any other country to India, they should learn to unthink and relearn everything, learn everything from scratch. So the person that I was before was someone else, someone who thought that, oh, my life is so easy and I have all of the answers to everything, I am right about stuff. And when I arrived in India, I realized that, wow, this is nothing like I imagined, and I really need to learn to think like them and learn to understand the culture, in general, like why things work the way they work. And I would say that this is a main part of what I do today. Like the point of my Instagram and my YouTube and my TikTok, it's not just to show life in India. Oh, here, here, this is my house, this is my street, this is the supermarket in India. But the main point is to actually show people the real side of the country that we learn so little about when we are outside, that we learn so little about. And I really love to break in other people the same stereotypes that I used to have, and to show people another way, and to create empathy in people whenever they are thinking about the country, like whenever we talk about poverty in India, for instance, I don't think it's fair whenever people go and they already throw a lot of judgment. Oh, this happens because of this. Oh, Indian people are poor because of that. Oh, there's a lot of blah, 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 blah. I think it's important to actually understand, to actually study the roots and the reasons why, And before I went to India, I didn't even know that India had been colonized by the Britishers, because in Brazil, you learn almost nothing about India. Yeah. So I learned the effects of colonization in India. I learned how the British Empire changed the caste system, for instance, that it's something that in the West, people really believe that the only fault behind discrimination in the caste system is Indian people and Hinduism, and because Hinduism is the reason behind caste system. And this is just religious intolerance, I got to learn that Britishers influenced a lot of the caste system, for instance, that they created criminal castes. And this is something that nobody learns. It's a bad stereotype that India has, and people really need to go deep into the culture to understand that, what, things are much more complex than what they imagine to be. So I definitely changed a lot as a person in the country.
That's really interesting to know. Again, since you touched the topic a little, I would like to know about, since you started creating content, and when you talk about, it could be any mediums, and I know that you have a channel called where you talk about India and you talk about experiences, uh, or how exactly the India looks. I mean, it's just maybe one way of presenting India's reality in Portuguese to Brazil. And specifically, what I would like to know is that what is your stronger purpose? I mean, I would say that once you started it, was there any particular why or particular reason or something that maybe just for fun? So I would like to know that.
Okay. I actually started posting about India as soon as I arrived in the country. I started posting about my learnings and my impressions on my Instagram, on my Facebook. So whenever I first arrived in India, I used to post about my experiences on my Facebook, just to my friends and my family. And my experience in India was very different than what people told me that it was going to be. Like, before I went, a lot of people said, oh, don't go there, you're going to be raped. Oh, don't go there, it's so poor. Don't go there, it's so violent. And whenever I went, I realized that there's so much more than I imagined, that I had a very positive experience. And I started naturally writing about this on my Facebook, right? And people like the way I write. They say that I am good with words or that I write really well. But this really stayed in the personal level for the most of my time there, right? I mean, I had a really great experience in India, but it was also extremely challenging because once I started staying longer in the country, I had to face like a very difficult part of the cultural shock, which was the fact that not everyone is so open or willing to accept a foreigner inside the society. Like people accept foreigners very well as tourists, but they not necessarily accept foreigners so easily whenever the foreigner decides to be a part of the actual society, like staying in the country. So I faced a lot of criticism. I faced a lot of backlash, both from Indians and from Brazilians as well. And this was really tough for me. So for a really long time, I kept my experiences more private to myself and the people that I know. And I really had to break out of that. And I really had to first heal myself from everything difficult that happened to me in order to be able to open my life to other people, right? So it was only, even though I arrived in India in July 2013, it was only in July 2019, 6 years later, that I decided to make my Instagram actually public, and that I started like sharing more of my experiences so that other people could also have access, people that I didn't know. And this is a huge, I would say, step, because one big part, and this is one thing that I see very commonly in people who wanna dive into the social media ways, but they are afraid to, is because people are afraid of others' criticism, right? It's very common that before you launch a channel or an Instagram account or whatever it is, especially if it's one where you actually show yourself there, you show your face there. Because one thing is for you to launch a brand account where you post about your brand and you don't really show yourself personally. That is very easy. But another thing is for you to put yourself in the line where you show your face and you tell your experiences and you open yourself up to criticism. You already know that, maybe some people will not like what I'm saying. Maybe some people will criticize me, and it's not an easy process, So I see that many people that they come to me asking, oh, I want to post about this, but I am afraid because I don't know if people are going to like it or not. This also happened to me. So I started posting gradually on my Instagram. Like in the beginning is to post only photos. And I started making stories about Indian culture. And I started with the stories because I thought that stories, they only last for 24 hours. So even if it's something that someone may not like, it's not going to be there after one day, right? Tomorrow it will be gone. So I started breaking my barrier of fear this way. So I started posting about learning Hindi. I started posting, for instance, oh, I was in India and it was Diwali time. So I started posting why Diwali happens as a festival, showing Dhanteras, showing everything that happened before and after Diwali, and explaining the reasons to people. I think the most interesting is not to show like, oh, the streets are full of lights, but why is Diwali the festival of lights, right? This is what makes it so special. Why is Holi the festival of colors? Why people celebrate Raksha Bandhan? Why everything happens? The why, I really like to explore the whys. So I started posting on my stories, and I started getting a really good feedback from people. People actually really liked the way I was doing it, but I didn't used to show my face because I was scared of showing my face, and I was very shy to the camera, let's say. So I used to just find photos, for instance, of Diwali, or make a small video of Diwali, like the lights on the street, and then I will write the text on top. Oh, this happens like this. The houses are with the lights because of this. It happens, every year in a different time of the year, blah, 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 blah. And slowly and steadily, I started like losing the fear of showing myself also, like the way that I am doing to you. I wouldn't do this 2 years ago. I wouldn't think about this. So I started losing the fear slowly and steadily of like putting my face on the camera. First, it was like in small clips, and then I started making bigger clips. So everything started happening in a more natural way as I felt more comfortable with things, right? Like first I will show my face on a small story, then I will make a very small IGTV video. The first small IGTV video I made was about the recipe of chai. And if you compare the way that I talk on the video with my YouTube videos today, you can see like how I managed to become more comfortable in the camera over time. So I really started sharing, and then people started resharing my content to other people. Oh my God, my mom really likes India. I will tell her about your account. Oh my God, I really learned something from what you posted today. I will share this with my followers, because I learned very beautiful things about India. I learned about spirituality. I learned about growth. I learned about having empathy towards other people, about looking to other people and, seeing what you can do to help them, but in a real way, with stuff that they actually care about. And I just started sharing a lot of this. Last year I made a post that was very popular, that a lot of people reshared, which was something that most people wouldn't think about at first, which was about the fact that in India, people at the beaches, they usually don't wear a bikini, because in Brazil, the beach culture is extremely strong. Everybody goes to the beach every year. So people have this a huge concern with their appearance and being fit, because you need to show your body at the beach. And there is unsaid pressure of wearing the bikini, right? Like some people get a little hostilized if they go to the beach and they say that, oh, I would just wear shorts and a t-shirt because I don't feel comfortable. And people will tease them and like, oh, why would you not put a bikini? Oh, you are so tacky. So I made a post challenging this concept, because I know that most women that wear a bikini at the beach in Brazil, they don't feel comfortable in the bikini. I never felt comfortable in a bikini. You do it because it is a society pressure, right? It's a society pressure. And in India, people don't have the same pressure towards the body that you have in Brazil. People have the pressure of having a fair skin, but they definitely don't have the same level of pressure of having a toned body, being extremely fit. Brazil is the second largest country when it comes to plastic surgeries. People are very obsessed here with having bigger breasts, or so they do like breast implants and a lot of Botox, and a lot of this stuff has already become so normalized in Brazilian culture that I made a series of posts challenging this. Like, why is this normal? Why do we think that women are free if they wear a bikini, but they are not free if they go to the beach in India wearing clothes? Why is one freedom and the other isn't freedom? We need to challenge these concepts, and this cultural exchange is so rich in this aspect, because you really, I learned not only about India, but living in India made me learn about my country. It made me learn about why are things this way in Brazil also. I started questioning this, like why are people so obsessed over the body in Brazil? In India, they're not. Even if in India, I don't feel, let's say, free to wear short skirts on the street, I feel free in India to have more weight than I would in Brazil. Even if I gain a few kgs in India, it doesn't matter so much, because you wear clothes which are a little loose, so it doesn't show as much, and people don't judge you so much for this, right? So the concept, I started questioning the concept of freedom. So people really liked this post, and they started sharing this post with a lot of other people, and I started gaining more followers. And then the purpose behind all of this was that, first, I want to show people that India is not the horrible country that they believe it is. I really wanted to break these stereotypes in people. And second is like to teach people to have empathy towards others, because I really believe that empathy is the key into me uniting different cultures. It really breaks barriers that people had before, and whenever they learn to see that there's so much more behind it, they start seeing that other culture with an open heart, right? Like nowadays, even if I post one of the, let's say, negative or difficult sides about Indian society, like for instance about the poverty, nowadays people already see my videos and my content with a much more open mind, right? They
Right.
became much more open-minded, that even if I say something which is difficult, they already understand and they don't think anything negative about India because of that, right? Even if I'm talking, oh, India has these many people that don't have access to toilets, for instance. People will not see this in a way that, oh, this is so gross, or this is so backwards. They will see this like, oh, wow, this is such an important topic about India, and they really see things in a different way. And so the first point was about this, right? Was about breaking the stereotypes. The second point was to create empathy. And the third point was just because I felt grateful in general. I felt grateful for everything that I learned in India. And I just felt that I just wanted to share this with other people. So when I started, I didn't really have any expectation that, oh, one day I am going to make money out of this. Like I was just doing it because it's something that I really love. I think India must be my favorite topic of conversation today for anything. If you want to talk about food, I will talk about Indian food. If you want to talk about movies, I will talk about Bollywood. If you want to talk about religions, I will talk about Hinduism. So it became my favorite topic. And uh, apart from this, we also have a fashion brand which is called Happy, where we make our products in India with Indian artisans, and one part of our profits we destinate to an Indian NGO that works with women empowerment. And the last reason why I started posting more on my personal Instagram about India is that I felt that it connected my customers more to the story of India, right? So that they could understand, but why is why is the founder of Happy bringing stuff specifically from India? Why did she choose to help Indians, an Indian NGO instead of a Brazilian NGO? What's the whole story behind this? And whenever people connect to me, they connect to my brand more as well. So I also thought about this. I was feeling that I needed to bridge this gap. There was definitely a gap between my customers that they were not necessarily, when I used to make a Facebook ad, they were not necessarily understanding the whole point about India, right? But it makes sense if the person understands my story. So I felt the need also to start sharing more my story so that people would also resonate to what I do as the work. So I started like sharing more, and it started working out. People started connecting more to my work and eventually becoming my customers. And then what happened last year was, of course, the pandemic. Like I was in India from the starting of the year, from January, and then in March the lockdown happened, and I just stayed in the country like most of the year. And in that moment, I I couldn't sell my products anymore, right? Because I could sell the inventory that I was having in Brazil, but I couldn't make any more products because the factories, they were all closed. The workers couldn't even go there. And my currency, the Brazilian currency, started devaluing a lot, which is something that is still there right now. Like Brazilian currency is highly devalued. So it became very expensive for me. It became even more expensive for me to import because Brazil has extremely high import taxes, and it became even more expensive then because of the pandemic and the currency. So it really hit a button on me that, you know what, I will need to find a new solution. I will need to reinvent myself, and I cannot rely on imports as my only source of income, right? I cannot just think that just wait it out and just be doing this forever. I think the pandemic showed everyone how vulnerable all of us are actually to, big things that may happen in the world, and everything can change overnight. And what are you gonna do, right? So it really hit me. And I was like, if I cannot sell my stuff right now, at least I can